Why on earth would I want my own brother dead? I hired you to find the killer, not to ask stupid questions.
It's funny how some people go to all the expense of hiring you and then proceed to lie to you, which I eventually discovered through various sources. Jessica had been dependent on Derek for money. Now, that much she admitted to me. What she didn't admit was that she and Dr. Moorfield were in love. I thought two old birds would be cute together. It seems that Derek didn't like that idea. And since he was the well from which both of them drew their water, they decided it might be better to cool their romance. To me, that's a motive. Austin Bueller. He denied embezzlement. Who wouldn't? He said the reason that he stayed on with Reardon instead of forming his own company was that Derek had saved his life during the war. I asked him what was the use of a child's swing.
A silly idea, no? Derek had it put in for Sissy. For some reason, he thought of her as a little girl, but she never uses it all. Too close to the ground, for one thing.
Well, I guess if you're rich, you don't have to make sense. I was going to ask the old circus meister to show us a few tricks on the apparatus, maybe a few loops. I didn't want to put him on the spot. Instead, I asked him if Jessica had inherited anything.
A fourth of the estate. I remember once Pembroke and I were passing in the hall and overheard Derek and Jessica arguing about it. He was threatening to disinherit her, and she was calling him all sorts of names.
You scratch a butler right, and you've got a bigger gossip than your Aunt Gertie. Good old Pembroke had bad words to say about everybody. Everybody, that is, except Derek's widow, a woman he undoubtedly saw as a living vision of heaven on earth. I had to meet this woman, and quick. The only new information he gave me was on Austin Bueller.
But Mr. Reardon was obviously feeling better. Yes. He called downstairs, asked Mr. Bueller to come upstairs at 9 sharp to go over some business papers.
9 sharp, that's when he was killed.
That's right, but Mr. Bueller wasn't with him. No, he'd left the papers out in the car, went out to get them, just minutes before the murder happened. Of course, the minute he heard the shots, he came back.
Derek's widow. I had to admit bright colors were more becoming than black, but I don't know. I guess I'm a traditionalist.
Tom and I were in the parlor playing gin.
Any witnesses besides Tom?
I don't think you believe me. I guess Jessica and Dr. Moorfield could have seen us if they'd wanted to. They were sitting right here on the north porch. The doctor was in the club chair. I could see that straw hat of his peeking up over the chair back. But Jessica was facing in our direction. I'm sure she can vouch for us.
Tom was Derek's younger brother, the black sheep. His story about last night gelled perfectly with Elisa's. I asked him if Derek's attitude toward anybody had changed recently. Yep. Derek and Austin were once good friends. The last couple of weeks have been a definite strain in their relationship. I'd heard the same thing from Pembroke, so I figured it was true.
You're pretty handsome for a detective.
Oh. She was truthful. That was one thing in her favor.
It's terrible about Uncle Derek, don't you think? And we were just becoming friends.
And he didn't get to leave you anything.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
Now, where were you after dinner?
Nice eyes.
Oh, you get over them?
I was in the kitchen doing my schoolwork.
Anyone with you?
Oh, Pembroke. I used to sneak out of the house and meet boys. So now they make me stay where old Pembroke can keep his eye on me.
You were both in the kitchen?
Sure we were.
Give me all you got, darling. I need it.
It wasn't much. There were no surprises in the ballistics report. He'd been shot once in the head by a bullet from his own gun from a distance of 5 feet. True, that didn't completely eliminate suicide, but it did make it harder to figure. The information was beginning to pile up. I was asking more questions than a radio quizmaster. Was the butler in love with Elisa? Possible. Who persuaded Derek to take out that $1 million insurance policy? Moorfield thought it had been Derek's own idea. You know, I'm thinking about a duet, maybe Tom and Lisa.
Sorry.
Why?
I saw them from the north porch. They were both in the parlor, right up until the time of the murder.
Well, maybe I can come up with another combo. I don't like asking people about themselves. I ask them about other people. That way they got no reason to lie. Did Austin know that Derek had a fatal disease? He did. Now, you see, I got a real problem with a guy who's sick and he's only got 6 months to live and he gets murdered. Either the guy who murdered him didn't know he was sick or he didn't feel like waiting 6 months.
And sick before that.
You know, it wasn't Dr. Moorfield who insisted that Derek go to New York for a second opinion. He said it wasn't necessary. It was Tom who finally talked Derek into making the appointment.